All right, hello family. This is Pastor George here, coming with a How to Tuesday. And we have had some very exciting topics, but we are very excited to have with our special guest today, Dr. Erica Holmes. How you doing, Erica?
I am doing wonderful today. How are you?
Doing great. And we have an awesome topic for you today. It's about dealing with all the things that are happening because now we're doing shelter at home in different areas. And today, and our guest, Dr. Erica Holmes, is going to be speaking on this, but also I just want to let you know just a little bit about her. Dr. Holmes is a core faculty and the director of psychological trauma studies with a specialization in master's in psychology program at Antioch University, but also we know her because she's the executive director of the Champion Counseling Center right here at Faithful Central. She's worked in this industry for over 20 years. And what I like about her the most, two things. One is she teaches in a very down home, easy way to understand in these areas. And then the second thing also, I really like also relationships. I like Dr. Holmes, but you know who I like almost a little bit better, but don't? Her husband is just such a good guy. I just like the relationship that you two have. And that also shows the fruit of the things that you do. And she's an author, so she also wrote a book, and it's called A Dating with a Purpose. So she has done several things, and she's been just a blessing. And I just like to have her can you tell us a little bit about just in your background a little bit, and then so we can move forward and just kind of help people in the areas of mental health and at this time right now. Dr. Holmes?
Thank you so much, Pastor George. As you mentioned, I have a few roles, professional roles that I engage in. I have always loved teaching and training. When I went to graduate school, I knew that I was not getting an education just for myself, that it was very important for me to share that information with individuals and families and communities who might not have access to that information or that information is not readily available. And so I've always been dedicated to teaching and training and sharing information and helping people to build up their own knowledge and empower them to ask the right questions when they're struggling. So I am a core faculty member at Antioch University, as you mentioned. I always taught, of course, my position at Faithful Central as the executive director of the Champion Counseling Center is near and dear to my heart.
Exactly.
Right. So there I'm also able to teach and train therapists in training, as well as work with congregants and members of the greater Los Angeles community who are struggling psychologically. And for so many, within, especially the African-American community, there's a huge stigma around mental health.
Right.
And people are reluctant to go. So having the counseling center co-located within the church has just been a blessing for so many, because it kind of serves to knock down some of the barriers that have been in place before. And so I love being in the counseling center. I love working with the congregation. I love being able to integrate, my Christianity in with psychology and meet people where they are, integrating that faith component with, traditional psychology. And so those are the two major things. I wrote my book because I also have my own consulting business called Holmes Consulting, where I help organizations start mental health programs or expand or do evaluation research. So I'm really busy and have my hands in a lot of pots.
And I'm going to do my very best not to interrupt you a lot, but there's some aspects that I want all the people that tune in to know about you. One is at Antioch, you're training the trainer per se. You're helping people who are getting a degree in this so they can see the avenues that people are from diverse areas, in other words, African Americans, so that they can have exposure to that. That's great that you do that. Also, that you're here at the church and teaching what you said from diverse, because there's a stigma behind it. And I think that personally, everybody should go see a psychologist at some point, because to be honest with you, I played sports, and I think that a head coach is a psychologist. He's trying to get these people to come out of here. There's this, they're just showing a documentary right now. It's called The Last Dance.
Yes.
And I think the best psychologist right now in the country is Phil Jackson. And I will put up an argument with anybody, and they'll say that in education, but they're trying to get the best out of everybody. And we all need to get the best out of everybody. So I really advocate it. I want that to go down where people feel like they shouldn't see that. I think that everybody should do that. I also think that everyone should go to marriage counseling. You shouldn't go just when you're in trouble. Also, my hand is raised. You know, when the pastor raises his hand, I think everybody should go to financial counseling. That's why we do this. So we want to improve every area. Remember, we do How To Tuesday every week to help you with your time, your talent, and your treasure. And this will uplift you in all three of those areas. And we just look forward to it. So can I just ask you the questions that I have, because these are, and by the way, these all aren't for me. I just want to know, and I think you guys all know these questions all are just ones to help me, but I want them to help you as well. But I just want to talk about what's going on with COVID-19. As you know, we were all asked to stay home by decree. In other words, they said, everyone stay home. So there are people that were working jobs, now they have to stay home. And they're with kids, there's just different areas. So what are some of the top three areas? I'm just going to go with three right now. The top three areas that are affecting mental health because of COVID-19.
Three. That's hard. So I might cheat a little bit.
Okay, but we're gonna start.
So if I had to narrow it down to three, the first, I'm going to put them in three categories. So
right, gotcha.
The first I would say is uncertainty, along with change, along with loss of control. So uncertainty, change, and loss of control.
I'm sorry, everybody, write that down. Uncertainty, change, loss of control. So I'm tapping it right.
So those three things are happening simultaneously. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty about how this disease is transmitted and how it lives. That information is changing every day. There's uncertainty about who's most likely to be infected,
right,
and how to treat it.
Right.
There's uncertainty about how long will we be at home? How long will the United States be kind of shut down and quarantined and cordoned off? So we don't know that. There's uncertainty about, and when we start to open up the states and the country, it's uncertain. There's uncertainty about, and so what will that look like?
I'm sorry, there's uncertainty about the uncertainty.
Exactly.
When we're saying the uncertainty, now we're interviewing, you're not talking to me, but everyone asks me, what's going on with my job? So there's uncertainty of income. In other words, like if you run a business right now and you run a restaurant, you're like, okay, well, when it does open, are the people going to come back? Or are they going to come back slowly? Because if you open up a restaurant and everyone else is at home, they're not, the people that go to lunch at work, they're not going to lunch at work. Or how is this going to come back? So so I'm going to call this uncertainty of uncertainty. And I know that's not English, but it's good theology.
But you're exactly right. So you look at it from a business owner standpoint. I can look at it and as a consumer standpoint, and when the business does open, am I going to go back in there and eat? Can I be certain of who's serving the food, who sat at the table for? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and so that uncertainty then is coupled with change, because we've had to change almost every aspect of the way that we move and the way that we live in the world. From not being able to greet, we can't see anyone, but if you see them in the grocery store, you can't even greet people.
Yeah, when I see your husband next, I'm gonna put my elbow. I'm now doing the elbow from a distance. I stopped elbowing people because then I said everybody's elbow is just as dirty as you're not dirty, but just as much in doing that. So I decided, but I might move your husband up to the kid and play where we just do the knee and the chicken.
Right, but then we've had to go to the air hugs, the air waves, the air elbows, because we're supposed to stay 6 feet from each other. So, from how we greet each other has changed, to how we work, to how we're parenting our children because they're in the house with us, to school. So everything has changed. So there's uncertainty, and within that uncertainty, there's been rapid changes that have been implemented in order to meet the demands of this disease and to try to control it. Right. So you have uncertainty, you have change, and then superimposed on both of those areas is a loss of control. right? So we don't have control even on our own daily movements. We have no control over even the outcome or planning for the uncertainty. We have no control over those things that we've had to change. And so those three things coupled together are impacting people's mental health. Even those who have never had challenges with their mental health are feeling unstable or feeling kind of, emotionally dysregulated. Even those people now are being affected. And the most common area of being affected at this point is a lot of people are experiencing anxiety.
Right. Can I ask you a quick question about this?
Sure.
Because this is going to be, you guys, is worth the price of admission right now. But this question I'm going to ask in a minute.
I'm ready.
I'm seeing people loss of control. That creates hoarding, or when people get scared. If you remember, this was a health issue.
Right.
Then it moved to a toilet paper and paper towel issue.
Yes.
Like what? Like you saw people in grocery store fighting over toilet paper. Some would have like 200 rolls of toilet paper and all this hand sanitizer. Like, so it's just like that was loss of control because they couldn't control. My question, let me ask you, why do people get over 30 rolls of toilet paper? Like, why did they do that?
So for a lot of individuals, when there are, like, this is a major crisis, and a major crisis serves as a destabilizing agent. And so again, when you look at those three things, uncertainty, change, and loss of control. So people don't know what's going on. Uncertain, they don't know what to expect. Yes, it's an upper respiratory infection. I don't know how that equates to toilet paper. Well, the way that it equates is a lot of times people will project or put that anxiety and project it or put it onto a neutral stimuli that they can control.
Okay.
Right? So it's not about the toilet paper. It's about me in this era of uncertainty, trying to find an area that I can control. What is something that I can control for? And what is something that I could actually plan for? So what I can do, there's a million things on a grocery store shelf.
Right.
And one thing that I can do, I don't know what's going to happen, when this started happening to us in California in March. I don't know what's going to happen in April, May, June, or July. But what I do know is that I can have a stockpile of this one thing that's relatively inexpensive, that doesn't need a freezer or refrigerator or won't go bad. And I can have a stockpile of this, and I can control my family's access to this. So it's not about the toilet paper could have been anything. And then unfortunately, when you start seeing media coverage, it increases the hype and connection. So then you have a reaction from other folks like, oh no, there will be a lack of toilet paper, so I need to get some too.
Right. So it's like the herd mentality gets going.
Exactly.
So first it starts with, they start that, then they're saying, I want to have control. And maybe the person buying it thinks I'm providing for my family with something I can control, because they used to be able to control other areas.
Exactly.
That is a beautiful explanation.
Exactly.
Do you see why I needed to go to counseling, everybody? I just was baffled by that all the time in doing that. But go ahead though. You were explaining about just how people had that and scarcity, and then we had loss of control.
Right. And then we have loss of control. So all three of those things increase or heighten anxiety.
Right.
So now you have within not just the United States, but around the world, this is a global pandemic. Global. So you have people who are experiencing anxiety, which is a natural, normal response to the unknown.
Right.
And so the reason that it's important for us to focus on mental health, or at least acknowledge the impact that this global pandemic has had and is having on mental health, is because all of us are affected. Right. And especially as we mentioned earlier in the conversation, because there tends to be a stigma around mental health, especially within the Black community, but I know other cultures who have that stigma as well.
That's true.
It's easy for folks to dismiss or ignore or minimize the impact that this global pandemic is having on them, which leads to other problems in the future or down the road, or can lead to other problems. And so I think that it's important for us to say that having some anxiety, feeling some sadness is a natural, normal reaction to what is happening to us worldwide.
Right. This is great. So now what I want to go to in a moment is, what are some solutions and practical things that we can do? Remember, this is how we're going to do it. But I
Right.
just want to say this: the uncertainty, the change, and the loss of control.
Yes.
Is there any other things that that's why any other symptoms of this that happens with this? In other words, like are you seeing now, like couples, they said, is the divorce rate or domestic violence, I don't know if it's going up, but I will tell you this from going to the grocery. I'm only saying from going to the grocery store, but the amount of alcohol purchased right now at grocery stores is like in the aisle before me. I'm like, is there any groceries underneath that those bottles to the people? I'm being honest. The store, right. And the person, two people in front of me, I didn't see anybody that didn't. I almost had to just get something just for communion or something, because I was the only one that didn't have any alcohol. And if you notice that's gone up and you see what's happened in different areas, are there any other symptoms or anything that you're seeing, that you see from your side, that we need to look out for, that you're noticing, that just the, I look at things from a pastoral and a financial aspect. Right. So that's how I look at these, and we buy stocks of some of these companies, like chloride, some of the things that we're doing. But I want to hear from your side. What are you kind of seeing in that?
So what I would say is, as I said, I was going to cheat a little bit on that question about what are the top three things. So that was really kind of an umbrella of one. Those three were kind of three in one, like the Trinity.
Oh, okay. So we're going to do several areas. Okay, then go ahead.
So then the second area that I would, you led right into it, would be the impact of social isolation. And right. And the flip side of that is decreased me time. So it's interesting, because we're kind of in this paradox of social isolation. So this, the stay-at-home orders and the inability to socialize and be in large crowds. And so we can be socially isolated from the outside world, and also in our homes if we live alone. That social isolation. So it's kind of two areas of social isolation: being socially isolated from the larger, community or society, even church community. Yeah. But you might be socially isolated within a home where there's family, or there are individuals who live alone and live by themselves, who are completely socially isolated in their homes, or disconnected, and also disconnected from the community. And then the flip side of that is, I can be socially isolated or on a safer at home order with my family, but that then increases my me time or my alone time. People are in homes, locked in homes with their families, with their spouses, with their siblings, with their parents, with their children. And so before, when we were able to go to school and parents went to work and those who stayed at home sent their children off, there was at least 8 to 9 hours, when you include commute time, where people were actually doing things that weren't for the household or for the family, and the children were away from their parents. And so people had time, even if it was at work. It wasn't like the entire day didn't bleed into each other at home.
Right.
And so the social isolation, or now we're moving to saying physical distance, because we know that social isolation in and of itself can have a serious impact on mental health.
Right. And even as you're saying that, and I just want to let you know, hopefully you weren't just talking about me. You guys know she outlined me exactly directly. I think I'm an extrovert, and it's on Sundays now, I'm like, I haven't talked to anybody. Like, get up and preach sermons to my kids now. Everybody sit down. Just like, my kids. But now in stores, you want to go someplace. Like, I think there are people who may even go to the grocery store just not to meet people, just to I do things just to get out, just to walk around. Or I go on walks, or I'm doing certain things just to get my body. But this is the thing: when you go out, nobody's talking. Right. And even our members, like when I'm walking around in England, they'll go, "Hey, Pastor George," and they have a mask on. You remember me? I'm like, who are you? It's like, oh, okay. Like when I've seen you before with a mask on. And I'm like, it takes me a minute to recognize you, with the mask on. And that isolation. And then also is, I think our house is a nice size and everything. But when you're in it all day with 5 people, my wife and 3 kids, it's like things are closing in on me,
Right.
and people are talking louder and louder. I don't know, my
Right.
kids. I thought my kids talked loud before, but now I feel like they're really loud.
Right.
So I'm just like,
Right.
am I crazy? Do I need
Right.
to, and doing that. So I see that, but then I guess later on I want to go into what solutions are to some of
Right.
these things. But
Right.
hey, everybody, you aren't crazy. This is normal. And even
Right.
if you're an introvert, at
Right.
some point you do want to see somebody.
Right, right.
So
Right,
that was good.
right. It's important to acknowledge that being introverted doesn't mean that you don't like people. It just means that you need more alone time than maybe other people. You want to
Right.
have interaction with people on your own terms. And
Right.
so I think it's important for us to really recognize the impact of social isolation, being closed off. And I'll talk about, what we need to do with that. And then also that decreased me time, which leads into what you said, what you had mentioned earlier. There have been several reports about calls to report child abuse almost declined in LA County by about 50%. And the sad and unfortunate part about that is it doesn't mean that's not an indicator that child abuse has decreased during this time. It actually is an indicator that now that children are not going to schools or interacting with other adults who are mandated reporters, their suffering is going unacknowledged and unreported. And so that's really sad. It's ironic when we think about the safer at home order. It fails to recognize that for some people, home is not safer. And that could be children who are in abusive situations or even adults who are in adult interpersonal relationships with others who are in interpersonal violent situation or domestic violence situations, that now these individuals, because they're out of the public eye, they are locked in the home with the perpetrator. And so we have to remember that.
Okay, let me jump in here because we've done seminars on that. So let's talk the spousal part. If someone's in a home with someone that's abusive, they stay sometimes because they don't financially, they can't move, or now there's nowhere to move. And I just want to let you know, we do seminars and we have things on this. At the end, there'll be information on Pastor George. We teach seminars about financially places where you need to go. But for the kids, my heart goes out because, me and my wife are managing 3 kids. I can't imagine what it would be like if I used to travel. So what my wife, people would help, my mother-in-law, people would help when I traveled. But being a single mother doing this, me time, we got to figure out where that's going to be, if it's going to be the bathroom, what we're going to do. We're going to do some solution for those.
Right.
Go back to what you're saying and hit our points. But we just want to let you know, there are solutions for these and in different things. But I want to just say this, though. I'm going to offer one solution right now. You are not God's grace. Just stop trying to be perfect, because we're trying to have our kids all regimented on these schedules and everything like this. And then they were like, the Wi-Fi cut off, or, different things were happening. So we have to give people grace right now and in prayer.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I take a break. I take a break. We have to talk.
No, I thank you. And I really appreciate and I'm so thankful for the resources that you're continuing to provide during this time, because there's an increased need for that. And I know that many people are feeling alone, they're feeling isolated, and they feel that they have nowhere to turn or they don't know where to start. So I think that that's really important.
Right. And when you address these issues, they start small and they get big. Like, in other words, like, hey, if you guys know, this is where you can go get food for your kids. Because we found out when I would go to certain schools in LA Unified, Inglewood, and then also if you're watching us all over the country or all over the world, there were opportunities where you can go look in your local city where you can go get food for your kids for lunch. Many school districts, there's a place where you can go pick up food, because we found out that was the lunch, breakfast and lunch. When I used to go to school, talk to kids at schools, they'd eat breakfast and lunch at schools. I found out that was the only meal they were having.
Most definitely.
And then now if they're at home, we want to be able to do that. And then also we provide resources. So we're going to I'll put up the resource page at the end.
Sounds perfect.
Gotcha.
Sounds perfect. And so just, moving to the third area, which kind of follows up with what you just mentioned perfectly, is another area that can have an impact on mental health during this COVID. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to say something about it explicitly, and that is tangible losses. So, when we talk about social isolation and decreased me time, those are kind of less tangible, and uncertainty and change, those are less tangible losses or experiences. But what are the tangible things that are happening in people's realities? People have lost things, people have lost places, people have lost people, right? And so there have been tangible losses. When we look at the number of deaths due to COVID in this country, it is unprecedented. And I remember when we first started talking about COVID, I heard many informal conversations of people comparing COVID 19 to the common flu or or cold. And I can say that in my lifetime living on the West Coast, where it's typically warmer weather and milder weather, that most of my friends are 50 and under, that I've never had a friend die from the flu, nor have I had a friend hospitalized because of the flu. And during this epidemic, in the last 6 weeks, I've had 5 people who are really close to me hospitalized due to COVID-19, and one of them, who's under 55, passed away. So people are experiencing tangible losses of people and loved ones, and the experience is completely unprecedented in the way that we're able to manage or engage or grieve those losses. So you have to drop, in this era of isolation and quarantining, you drop your loved one off at the hospital and you're unable to visit.
Right.
You're unable to talk to them if they're on a ventilator or if they're having problems breathing. And you might get a call that says, oh, that we don't think they're going to make it, and then that they've passed away. And then you're not able to go and view or get the body. And funeral homes have changed even the ways that you can only have 10 people if you have a service, right?
Yes. And also,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. But I want you to finish. But just so you know, we're seeing that, Dr. Holmes, here at the church. And as you know, Pastor Jordan Allen oversees that area, and it's 10 people, but this is a challenge. If you're out of town, you can't come. There are people who can't go to their mother's funeral. If they're in Louisiana, because if you fly over state lines, there's certain rules that you have to stay. When you come back, you have to stay somewhere for 14 days. Different than your home. So it's like some people that's very expensive. And there's some a dear friend of mine, his mother passed, he lived in Texas, and then he was supposed to go to Louisiana, and he couldn't go because he couldn't come back. And his wife, you can't be away from your family for 14 days and doing it. And it's just, this is just traumatic on us, because we want to do it. And even in that area and do it. But we can't. And then now it's now it's kind of moved to going to the gravesite with 2 people. So now it's even less than 10. So, and the other challenge is the rules change while you're planning it. So one day you say, hey, we got 10 people, you have 10 people. Then all of a sudden you get a call in the morning. Oh yeah, you can't go. You're like, oh, we can't go. So yes, those are the
tangible.
Yes.
Those tangible losses of people. And as you stated, that we want to go, we want to do the things, those cultural rituals that we do when there's a death of a loved one. We go, we take the roast and the fried chicken. We sit up with them and talk and make sure that they're okay.
And hug, console, cry, snot, the whole thing.
Pray, all of that. So all of our cultural rituals, the general ways that we learn to cope with death and loss, have been ripped from us. So now there goes that rapid change. Now we have to figure out, how do I mourn for my loss of someone who, I loved and was connected to and cared for, that I went to the hospital and thought was going to come back and didn't. How do I mourn that loss? So those tangible losses of people. And then you mentioned losses of things. People have lost their jobs.
Yes.
total incomes, which, impacts housing stability so that people are lost or threatened. I know that LA County has some programs and have put up policies that people shouldn't be evicted at this time. But of course, we know there are policies that are put in place, and still some folks try to go around those policies. So people are facing housing insecurity, food insecurity that you mentioned for children who would only eat at school anyway. Now they're at home and the families didn't have enough food for one meal at dinner, so trying to provide 3. And I know LA County, but there's a lot, and a tangible
on less
loss.
income, right? On
Exactly.
less income.
And another tangible loss, that really impacts us, you mentioned it earlier, is a loss of church community. For many of us, right?
I miss y'all.
Exactly.
Everybody, come on. Everybody, just do this to the screen. Just do that.
There we go.
That. Give it to me again. Just give me something.
Right. I mean,
my wife said the other day, I was standing around, walking back and forth, pacing. I was talking, and she goes, "You miss everybody, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You want a hug?" I said, "Yeah, let me get a hug." I'm gonna start doing. I've done a few drive-bys, or I've had some people come by, and church when I'm by, drop off, to drop off, and I say, "Hey, how you doing? Like, are you excited about the offering?" I said, "I'm just glad to see."
Right.
You just tell me everything's okay, or can you listen to I got a little 5-minute little talk. You want to listen to it?
I mean, really, that love for some people, getting through the week, a traditional week before COVID-19 was so arduous that they looked forward to coming into that sanctuary on Wednesday night or Thursday night or Sunday morning or Tuesday for a How-To Tuesday, just to see their folks. They want to get the word, they want to hear great music, but they also want to sit in their section, because people have sections.
And you brought your little towel, then you sat down, what you were going to lay down over. We have people that brought, like, they come in with, "Why you got 2 jackets on?" They're like, "Baby, don't worry about why I got 2 jackets on." I'm like, "You gonna do the whole row?"
Yes.
You're doing the whole row? Yeah.
Saving the seat. They're saving the seat for their church family.
Right.
So not to have that place where they can come and get renewed and feel loved and feel connected and feel unjudged, and like, so that's a huge loss for many. Like, we can, we watch the service on YouTube or on Facebook Live. I love the word. I told Bishop yesterday through text, like, I loved his word on Sunday, and that is wonderful. But I miss, sitting in my section and looking around and speaking to my folks and seeing you as I walk into the sanctuary. And so those are tangible losses. So, when we think about those 3 umbrella areas that I mentioned, uncertainty, change, and loss of control is number 1. Social isolation and decreased me time is number 2. And then those tangible losses is number 3. I think all of those, and there are many others, but I think all of those right now currently can have a tremendous toll, or take a tremendous toll on people's functioning and their mental well-being.
Let's go to the fun part. Now let's get solutions for all these. And I think I have a little bit of feedback in the background, so I don't know if you want to turn me down a little bit on your side.
Okay.
But what are the solutions to these? Let's start with the number ones.
So number 1, what I would suggest.
I'm sorry, everybody, write this down. If you guys are driving, don't write it down. But if you are not driving, please type these in your phone and have these, because I not only want you to have these, I was gonna say at the end, but I'm gonna say it now, but you guys need to share this with your family. There's so many people that, if you were to go out and get a counseling appointment or different things like this would cost. And then we just want to share this with you. So I want you to write this down for you. And then I want you to have what's called a kitchen table conversation. I'm gonna say it again at the end, but you're gonna sit down with your family and then, like, have a conversation and have that with them. All right, go ahead. Number 1.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of tools to help reduce the impact of this, or can help. And every tool is not going to be right for every person. So you got to figure out what kind of works for you. But the first thing that I would say is practice. It's not as easy. I can't tell you to do this, but I'm going to tell you to practice. Practice releasing those things that you cannot control. We must daily, hourly, by the minute, practice releasing what I can't control. So one thing that I like to say, which is an oversimplification, but I think it's a way that we all can get it. Anxiety is living in the future, and depression is holding on to the past. So how do we practice
You repeat that
staying
again. You repeat that again. I'm sorry, I write
in the
slow.
moment? I sure will. So anxiety is this living into the future, worrying about the future. And depression is thinking about, living in, brooding over the past. So how do we learn to live in the present moment? What can I control in this moment right now? What do I need to do in this moment right now to be okay? As a matter of fact, in this moment, I'm okay. So how do we learn to live for, or live in, not for, but live in the moment when we feel ourselves becoming somewhat anxious? We feel ourselves becoming saddened, or to live, learn, practice to stay in the present. It allows us to release those things that we can't control.
Awesome.
We have to let them go, because worrying about them will not increase our ability to control them.
You want to know something? And then I'm going to let you go on. But I am just, wow. When we teach people investing, you know what I always tell them? I always tell them past performance is not indicative of future results. That means if an investment had not done well in the past, that doesn't mean it's going to do well now. Or if something had done well in the past, it doesn't mean it's going to do good in the future. That's why you always deal in the present tense, because that's the only thing you control. You cannot fix the past.
That's right.
And God, Jeremiah 29:11,
there
God
you
has
go.
a plan and a purpose for your life.
That's
so God
right.
got the future. All you got to do in the present is do what you got to do. That's why you do positive affirmations.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. And
Write this stuff down. Write this stuff down. What y'all doing?
That's right.
Go ahead.
Right. And he says the rest of that passage is that his plan is for you to prosper.
Give you hope and a future. Just what you just said.
That's it. So if we can rest, right? So if we can rest in that God's got the future, he's already taken care of that. If he takes care of the little birds, he's going to take care of me. Right. So we don't have to worry about what's going to happen in December. Are we going to be able to celebrate Christmas? I don't know, but what I do know is God is already taking care of that.
You can celebrate today. You can put your hand up right now, can't you? Right.
That's right. That's right. So, let go, release those things that are out of your control. Worrying about them will not increase your level of control over them. It will only increase your anxiety. And we don't want to live in anxiety. We want to live in peace. We want to live in peace. So release those things that we cannot control and engage in strategies to release those things. So the first strategy that I mentioned was don't live in the past. Don't worry about the future, but live in the present. Another strategy to release those things that we cannot control is take time to increase your meditation time, reflection time, identifying those things, and doing deep breathing. I'm going to talk about maintaining spiritual life later, but do things that keep you grounded in the present and helps you to relax about the future.
Okay. All right. One other thing I'm going to add to this is, then I want everyone to write down. I was going to say 3, but that's too little. Write down 10 scriptures that carry you. Okay. So we already gave you Jeremiah 29:11.
Right.
Then if you want to do Philippians 4 and I'm not going to preach. Philippians 4:13, 4 and 19. My God shall supply all of my needs.
All my needs. That's right. That's right.
And then if you guys notice right now, also a bishop is doing something where he's asking everybody to write down what scriptures carried you through.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. The second one you actually mentioned earlier, some of the things that you can do to reduce the impact, a way that we can feel in control about the present is maintaining some sort of structure for your day. Now, this is not I don't want you to do a rigid structure or have a rigid structure or become dogmatic, but try to engage in some of the structured things that you did prior to the quarantining or staying at home order. So, don't, lay around in the bed till 12 noon because you've lost your job or because you don't have anywhere to go. Try to say, okay, I rise early in the morning, and then what do I do? And create a structure for your day. Think about what are the things that you want to accomplish in the day. It doesn't have to be hour by hour, but set a goal of something that you want to accomplish during the day. what might you want to accomplish by the end of the week? That could be again, I'm going to talk about some of the things you can do for yourself physiologically, but you could say, you know what, by the end of this week, I want to exercise 3 times a week.
Right.
Right. By the end of the day, I want to make sure that I have, like I used to get 15,000 steps when I was working and because I was on my feet, and that's gone down now to 1,200 because I'm only walking in my apartment. But you might say, well, by the end of the day, I want to have 5,000 steps, or I want to have 10,000 steps.
No, actually what you want to do is actually, if you did 12, then you want to do 15 now. Actually, having that structure is actually perfect. That's what we had to do with our kids because they didn't want to get. I'm like, no, get up. They dress like they dress just like they would for school because they're on a video conference. I'm wearing a dress. I'm dressed right now. Right. And we found out because it's also psychological.
Right. Exactly.
I'm gonna go down one here. Can I get a degree? Okay. Anyway, but you everything she's saying, you have to do these things because it's psychological. Also, she said there's no such thing as you lost your job. You're switching. It's like you were watching the TV. Bishop preached a sermon on this. And what God's doing, he's just switching channels. Right. You have a job. Your job is getting a job.
Right. Exactly.
A whole page of resources. So you should be getting up, getting dressed. And you should be doing Zoom interviews like this and talking to somebody. And then also humility. Get a job to pay the bills. Like you say, I know you got this job and you want to be this and that. But right now, if you got a stock or do something to make the bills and do that and to get around. And then also when you're out around meeting other people, it's easier to get a job when you got a job. So just keep working and keep doing that. All right, good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, and I was going to say exactly that, you know, I mean, Bishop even talked about it on Sunday, but he's talked about it over and over. Like, you know, this is a time of renewal and restoration and shift. And God is making a shift happen. And so keeping that schedule, as Pastor George just said, get up in the morning, take a shower, comb your hair, get dressed. Ladies, put on your lip gloss. And it does not matter whether you're going to a formal job or not. Then schedule your day. If you're looking for further employment or an additional employment, or even to, switch or change your career, something you've been thinking about. How many applications are you going to put in by the end of the day? How many friends or associates are you going to reach out to and let them know, hey, I'm back on the market. What do you guys have going on at where you're working? So
have your regimen, but
exactly.
Boom, and we have a class on that, and we've talked about that. So look at it. I mean, you're in LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, you're looking for a job, and you're continuing to do that, and you're continuing to network with people. And it's a mindset. Yes.
Right. It is. And I mean, if you, and as you said, I only said, start off small. If people have fallen off, and I know some people were, dealing with sadness and didn't know how to take this. And if they had fallen off, just kind of working back up to their steps. But if you're used to getting out and walking or running, or even, doing boot camp, or your gym is closed, there's so many free videos on YouTube that you could go to YouTube and search, whether it's Zumba to high intensity with HIIT workouts to yoga. Do something in your home. And if you have children at home, get them involved too. It doesn't have, or that could be your me time. You get up early in the morning and that's your me time. So, but keep a schedule. You're bathing, you're taking care of your hygiene. You are also in that schedule time that you're going to talk to family and friends. Schedule your reconnection time to help to combat that feeling of social isolation.
And work with people. 2 things. I'm going to go back to physical, working out. We also did a poll. It's totally unofficial. And in doing this, totally unofficial. We asked people, are you working the same, or are you working harder, or are you working less since COVID? 80% of the people saying they're working more hours. So that means you want to start doing more things physically. I'm sorry to put Pat Jones' name out there, but we did a Zoom meeting. It was a prayer call, and she was in her garage. She started a prayer meeting. I was okay, everybody's a prayer meeting, and she's on a bike riding it. And then she said, okay. So, and then she said, who's going to start the prayer? They started the prayer. Then she was riding. That call was 1 hour. I think she rode like 20 miles. Yeah, it's like, so you understand, like, we do have a meeting, or you're doing things, still have your workout, still do your thing. Don't say I'm doing this because I want to keep my job, because we want to keep our schedule. We want to make, that's me time. That's still we're still working on our body. We're still working on our time, and we're still doing it. That's really good. Also, what she said about people being isolated. My father, which is my children's grandfather, he misses, being around the kids, because we don't, and my mother-in-law, they're just not coming over right now. So what we do now is we have we call it grandparent time, Grammy time, grandpa time, where what they do is they call over and read stories to our kids.
Yes.
Dr. Holmes, he scared me one day. One day I'm sitting there, I'm working, my phone rings. It's my dad. He has a hat on, right? I said, hey man, what's the hat for? It's part of my story. Where are the kids at? I said, well, can you take the hat off? You're scaring me. So anyway, still do the things on the schedule. Just look at a new creative way of doing it.
Exactly.
Do a scavenger hunt. Do things like that, but do it virtually. You know, like in doing these. That's good. Hey, I just want to let everybody know we're going over a little bit on our time, but I think this is so valuable. Let's just make sure we hit them. Just continue to hang in here with us. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
And I'll wrap it up really quickly. So we kind of moved into, my third area, which was, taking care of your physical and spiritual self. So we talked about exercising. Eating well is so important. There have been so many memes on social media about how we were snacking. Now that was funny in March when we didn't know how long this was going to happen and it was new and everybody has chips. But now we're 2 months into this thing. You need to make sure that you are eating well. Put the snacks away, increase your exercise, eat your fruits and vegetables, those kinds of things. Because you have to feed your body healthy things in order for you to be healthy. It's all connected.
But so we did a whole series on that, and if you remember, Charlie Brookins did that, and she said 3 things that we want to do is that just like you have a plan there, you also have a meal plan so that you used to eat a certain schedule, and so you're doing that. With our kids, they were eating every 5 minutes, just running up and down eating food.
Yes.
So then what we did is we started packing that we got little baskets like they did. They used to take a lunch pail to school and come back. Now they think that this is just a vending machine and we're providing room service.
Yeah.
So now we have kitchen hours. Do you guys know the kitchen? The kitchen closes at 8:30. So what I do at 8:20, hey everybody, anybody want one last little snack before we shut it down? Then people came back at 9 and they said, can I have this and this and this? And guess what I said? You sure can tomorrow morning. So you should see their little faces went like they I said, now did you remember I came to you at 8:20 and then now you see you want to be on that schedule. So we have a full part on that.
Yes.
Eat healthy. Bible 3 John 2. Beloved, I pray that you prosper.
Yes.
That means go on a good journey. Be in health. That's your body. This is God's temple.
Right.
As your soul prospers. We want your soul to prosper. So you also want to have your time where you're getting food, you're getting spiritual food. So you're saying, 1, I'm listening to church services on Sunday. But when you listen to Bishop's service, why don't you just give a suggestion. Write down some of the scriptures and look them up because Bishop wants to preach. I watch all 3 services now, but he used to preach 3, all on Sundays. I'd watch how he give out different information and he's only giving you this much of what he really wants to say. So kind of look it up and see what God is saying to you. At Faithful Central, we do something called SOAP. That stands for Scripture, Observation, Application, and Prayer. And we have a little guide where you can just where you read the Bible and you say, what does the scripture say? Then you observe it. What does it say? You read it. And then the A stands for how do I apply it in my life? And the P stands for, you guys know the P stands for prayer. And you pray about it. That's during your meditation time, your me time, and then doing that. And then also you can do it with your kids. So we want to make sure we're doing that and building ourselves. Any other things you want to say in the group?
So along those lines, just quickly, sleep. Make sure that you're getting your 8 hours of sleep. Don't stay up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, just, binge watching Netflix. You need to make sure, right? So, your schedule is all off. So
not do it every night. Yeah, I don't think we can stop them from binge watching. We got to binge watch during the daytime.
During the daytime. Not 1 or 2 o'clock.
But that's a good thing to schedule.
Sleep.
Yeah, just watch 3 hours. Yeah, a couple hours of it.
Sleep time, sleep hygiene is important. Sleep during REM sleep, that's when your brain repairs itself. That's when it consolidates all the experiences that you've had for the day. So you need that REM sleep. So don't forget your sleep hygiene. So lastly, I'll just say, and you touched on it, maintaining your spiritual life. Just because we are disconnected from that physical building, we know that the church is within us.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to maintain our spiritual life and our relationship with Christ. So your prayer life, reading the Bible and looking up scripture, as Pastor George said, connecting with church family through Zoom or phone, or keeping that connection, or, some of the pastors in the church. And D, what a lot of people don't talk about, what about volunteering? There are a lot of ways that you can volunteer to help and be in service of others that might not require you to leave home. So there are volunteer organizations where people are volunteering to call other members, or even within our church or within your community, or calling seniors who are by themselves just to check on them. So maybe if you have some time and you're like, I'm used to being of service to others and I don't know how to be at this point because I'm not able to be an usher at the church, you might be able to volunteer in other areas, to reach out to some children who might not have grandparents. Say, hey, I'm going to do a Zoom story time and I'm going to read stories and this is the link. And if you need 10 minutes to yourself, put your children in front of the computer and let me read to them, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So find ways that you can be of service to folks even in this time.
Right. I got to go back to sleep and then we're going to end on that. Sleep is so important, and putting it there. If you do not, I'll let you know if you're getting enough sleep. If your days are running together, you're not getting enough sleep. That's when you're finding out your days are running together.
That's true.
Spiritual life, we got to maybe have you come back and spend the whole time on your spiritual life.
Right.
We're doing them right now. See how the kids come in right now? So anyway, this is my daughter, Gracie.
I never
Hi, Gracie.
Got you. Cool. Thank you so much, Gracie. We're doing an interview. We'll come back to you later. We'll come. Anyway, so spiritual life. One of the things that you also always want to have their spiritual life is that we're available 24/7.
Yes.
So we have service on Sundays, as you know, but then there's Tuesday night. We have Tuesday night where we have this. Wednesday is our midweek Bible study. Thursday is Deeply Rooted. It says young adults, but if you listen to his Pastor John Paul's messages, they are good. And then we also want to put this up here. Friday night, Friday night is comedy night. You guys listen to have comedy, sleep and comedy, like just so you can relax and just let that's a whole muscle, laughing. People that laugh, you just want people to put their shoulders into it and everything like that. So it's a great opportunity. So then Friday night and then Saturday, we have different things that you can listen to and that you're connected into. Also, you can join a group at the church. So you meet a group and then we meet various times and then have an accountability partner, like that you can call, you can talk to, and that you can continue to work with and grow with, so that you're doing that you're in your areas of spiritual life and that you would grow. Again, yes. Erica, any parting words before I conclude?
The only thing that I would say is this has been amazing, that I pray that everyone who listens to this How To Tuesday is blessed and that they find some nuggets that they didn't know before that they will incorporate into their lives as they go forward in this pandemic and afterwards. I did have 3 phone numbers that I wanted to give out, and I just want to say them right quickly, and then you can put them on the screen later.
Gotcha.
But
we'll put them in the type. Go ahead.
Okay, but not being alone. There's a crisis text line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can text and people will immediately respond, and you can talk to them about any distress that you're having. So the crisis text line, the number is 741-741. So the crisis text line is 741-741. The suicide hotline number is 800-273-8255. And then the mental health 24-hour line, if you know someone or if you yourself are experiencing mental health distress, that number is 800-537-6060. Again, that's 800-537-6060.
Gotcha. All right. Those numbers, everyone, I'm going to put down in the description so you'll be able to see those. I'm also going to put on there drerica.com so you can get more information about Dr. Erica. There, hopefully, you guys, this is so much information. It's like orange juice concentrate. So I'm able to listen to this more than once. Just the uncertainty, change, loss of control, and then learning about that, the self-isolation, the me time, and then walking through the losses, because everyone has lost something during this. But this God, there's actually a lot with this though, where I think God is moving away a lot of distractions from
Yes,
us. And
I
it's like a
agree.
rubber band. He's pulling us down. You guys know how rubber bands
Exactly.
work? Pulling us back to
Yeah,
spring us forward.
I
And how
agree.
we do, we're going to work through this. And I just want to let you know, I've said this before, that this is really about your stewardship, your time. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. Your talent, the skill that God has blessed you with, and then your treasure, your finances. We want to help make sure we're managing and all these. And this was a great example. This hit actually all through all three areas. And then even she even said about giving. Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities to give. You can let us know at the church if you'd like to give your time. Also, if you have skill in this area, let us know in those areas as well as financially. But thank you so much, Dr. Eric. And just want to let you know, I'm going to ask you to come back, but you're going to come back, right? Or I got to talk to your husband about it. You're going to come back. Okay,
I'll be back. You just
gotcha.
let me know and I'm back.
But this is really good. Just type in any questions that you have, and then we'll come back at another time and answer on them, and we'll do it. But if you have any questions, let us know, or any topics you also would like to hear about, type them in. Let us know. We're here for you, and God bless you. And we look forward to seeing you later. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. God bless you.